Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you went there, or looked for your phone all over the house only to realize it was already in your hand? If you are over 60, moments like that can feel scary fast. What starts as one small memory slip can turn into a much bigger fear. You do not just think, I forgot something. You start wondering if something is wrong with your mind. And that is exactly why this topic matters. Because forgetfulness can feel personal. It can shake your confidence. It can make you question yourself in ways that are much heavier than the moment itself. But here is the part many people need to hear. Not every memory slip means something is seriously wrong. Not every foggy moment is a sign of major decline. Sometimes the brain is not failing at all. Sometimes it is simply overloaded. Think of it like this. Your mind is a workspace. When it is clear, things come easily. Names, plans, little details, all of it feels close by. But when that space gets crowded with poor sleep, stress, medications, distractions, daily chores, and too many thoughts at once, even simple things can suddenly feel harder to find. That does not always mean the mind is broken. It may just mean the mind is carrying too much. And for many adults over 60, that is more common than people realize. So before you jump to the worst conclusion, take a breath and stay with me. In this video, we are going to talk about what brain overload really is, why it can make memory feel worse than it actually is, and how to tell the difference between normal mental fatigue and something that deserves closer attention. Because sometimes the scariest part is not the memory slip itself. It is the story we tell ourselves about it. So, what does an overloaded brain actually look like? A simple way to picture it is this. Think of your mind like a desk. When the desk is clear, everything feels easy to reach. You know where things are. You can find what you need quickly. There is a sense of calm, order, and control. That is how we all want our minds to feel. But as life gets busier, especially after 60, that mental desk can start to fill up. Not with just one or two things, but with everything at once. Appointments, bills, medication schedules, family concerns, sleep problems, grocery lists, little chores, names to remember, things you need to do tomorrow, things you forgot to do yesterday. And then there is the background noise of daily life. You are trying to make dinner, half listening to the television, thinking about a phone call you need to return, and wondering whether you locked the door. None of these things seem huge on their own, but together they create mental clutter. So when you suddenly cannot remember a name or lose track of what you're about to do, it may not be because the mind is failing. It may simply be because your mental workspace is too crowded. That is what brain overload often looks like after 60. The information may still be there. It just takes longer to find because too many other things are sitting on top of it. That can feel frustrating. It can even feel scary. But scary does not always mean serious. And that is the key idea here. An overloaded brain is often still a capable brain. It may just be carrying too much at once. The mind is not necessarily broken. It may simply be tired, distracted, or stretched too thin by the weight of everyday life. So before assuming the worst, it helps to ask a gentler question. What has my brain been carrying lately? Because sometimes the problem is not that memory is disappearing. Sometimes it is that life has become mentally crowded. And once you see it that way, the next question becomes very important. What is actually creating all that mental clutter in the first place? For many adults over 60, a few common things tend to pile up quietly in the background. One of the biggest is poor sleep. When you do not sleep well, the brain does not get the reset it needs. The next day, your thoughts can feel slower, your attention can feel weaker, and small details may be harder to hold on to. Then there is worry. Not always panic, just that quiet, steady kind of stress that sits in the background. Concern about health, family, finances, or everyday responsibilities can take up more space in the mind than people realize. When the brain is busy carrying stress, it has less room to stay focused on the present moment. Medications can also play a role for some people. Certain medicines may leave you feeling more tired, foggy, or less alert than usual. That does not mean something is terribly wrong. It simply means the brain may not feel as sharp as it normally would. And then there is multitasking, which sounds harmless but adds a lot of noise. Cooking while watching the news, thinking about tomorrow, and trying to remember a phone number at the same time may seem normal, but it can make the mind feel scattered very quickly. So when memory feels off, it is worth stepping back and looking at the full picture. Sometimes forgetfulness is not coming from one major problem. Sometimes it is coming from poor sleep, quiet stress, medication effects, and too many small demands all piling up at once. And when you understand that, you begin to realize something comforting. Your brain may not be failing. It may simply be overloaded. And this is the question that usually brings the most fear. How do you know whether your brain is simply tired and overloaded, or whether something more serious may need attention? A helpful way to think about it is this. Brain overload often changes from day to day. On some days, you feel clear and sharp. On other days, especially after poor sleep, stress, or too much mental clutter, your memory may feel slower. You may forget a name in the moment, then remember it later when you are calm. You may lose your train of thought, then find it again once your mind settles down. That kind of pattern can happen when the brain is carrying too much. A more concerning pattern usually feels different. It is not just one foggy afternoon or one stressful day. It may feel more consistent, more noticeable, and harder to explain away. It may begin to affect familiar parts of daily life. For example, getting confused in places that have always felt familiar, struggling with routines you used to handle easily, or having memory changes that people close to you start noticing too. The important thing is not to panic over one small slip. Everyone forgets words. Everyone misplaces things. Everyone has off moments. What matters more is the pattern over time. So instead of asking what is wrong with me every time you forget something, try asking a calmer question. Is this happening once in a while when I'm tired? Or is it becoming a steady change in everyday life? That shift in perspective can bring a lot of peace. And if memory changes start feeling more frequent, more disruptive, or harder to ignore, that is a good reason to talk with a qualified healthcare professional. Not because you should assume the worst, but because clarity is always better than fear. And once you stop panicking over every small memory slip, something else becomes possible. You can start supporting your brain in simple ways that actually fit into real life. The good news is that helping the mind feel clearer does not always require big changes. Very often, it starts with small daily habits that reduce noise and give your brain a little more breathing room. One of the most helpful things you can do is slow down and do one thing at a time. That sounds simple, but it matters. When you try to cook, watch the news, think about tomorrow, and answer a question all at once, your brain has to split its attention in too many directions. But when you focus on one task at a time, memory tends to work more smoothly. It also helps to make daily life easier on purpose. Keep your keys in the same place. Put your glasses in the same spot. Write important things down in one notebook or one calendar instead of trying to remember everything in your head. These are not signs of weakness. They are smart ways to reduce mental clutter. A little quiet can help more than people think. Even a few minutes without the television, without your phone, and without background noise can help your mind settle. When the noise goes down, thinking often gets clearer. And do not overlook gentle movement. A short walk outside, even for a few minutes, can help refresh attention and break up that foggy feeling. Sometimes the mind feels better when the body starts moving. None of this is about trying harder. It is about making life a little easier for a brain that has been carrying a lot, and often that is where clarity begins. And that brings us to the most important takeaway from this entire conversation. If you have been feeling more forgetful lately, please do not rush to give yourself the worst label. One missed word, one misplaced item, or one foggy afternoon does not automatically mean something is seriously wrong. Sometimes the brain is not failing. Sometimes it is simply tired, distracted, or carrying more than it can handle comfortably in that moment. That is what we have really been talking about today. We talked about how the mind can become overloaded, especially after 60, when life may look quieter on the outside but still feels very busy on the inside. We looked at how poor sleep, quiet stress, medications, and too much mental clutter can make memory feel worse than it really is. And most importantly, we talked about the difference between occasional mental fog and patterns that may deserve closer attention. That matters because fear can make every small slip feel bigger than it is. So the next time you forget a name or walk into a room and lose your train of thought, try not to panic, pause for a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself a kinder question. What has my brain been carrying lately? That one question can change the whole tone of how you respond to yourself. It shifts you out of fear and into understanding. And often, that is exactly where peace of mind begins. You do not need to be perfect to be mentally well. You do not need your memory to work flawlessly every hour of every day to know that your mind still has value. A few foggy moments do not erase your wisdom, your life experience, or the person you are. And if this topic felt personal to you, I would really love to hear from you in the comments. What is one small thing that helps you feel more clear-headed during the week? Your story may help someone else feel a little less worried and a little less alone. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Take care of your mind, be patient with yourself, and I will see you in the next video.